Hey guys, it's Saquana here with another review. So, I decided to give up a couple of minutes on my fabulously glorious Tuesday afternoon to bring to you a review of the new Netflix series by Kenya Barris called Black AF. Now, if you are not a part of Black Twitter, then you may not be aware of this show and the controversy surrounding it. The show itself has gotten excellent reviews on IMDb. I think it has pretty decent reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, but I haven't looked those up recently to see. But it is getting a lot of negative press in a lot of the Black blogs and vlogs on YouTube and elsewhere because of the problem that people have with Kenya Barris and his vision and um, his artistic stance. So what I want to do right now is I want to break down because I have watched the series in total. I am like 10 minutes away from the very end of the series, and it seems like a lot of people who have been writing these think pieces on it have gone ahead and said they're either hard pass, not gonna watch it, yet they have reviewed the problems that they have with Kenya Bears on the whole and what they have heard about it. And there have been people who've like watched a few episodes here and there. I have since gone through and watched the entirety of the series, all but the last 10 minutes because of interruptions, and decided I wanted to go ahead and bring you my viewpoint and my stance on the series. So hopefully sit down. I'm going to make this as quick and sweet as possible. But if you want to get yourself a light snack and pause the video and come back, please feel free to do so because I am going to delve deep and I'm going to give you guys some deep thoughts and maybe some things for you to ponder on your own before you decide whether you want to jump in the pool of binging Black AF. All right, so if you are under a rock and you don't know who Kenya Barris is a writer and a showrunner. He is the creator of ABC's Blackish, starring Anthony Anderson and Tracy Ellis Ross, which has spawned two spinoffs, Grownish, which is following the daughter of the two characters from Blackish and her journey off into college, and then Mixish, which follows Tracy Ellis Ross's character on the show Rainbow as a young girl who is being raised by a white parent and a black parent. Now, I have not watched Mixish at all. I do watch Blackish pretty regularly, and I do watch Grownish pretty regularly. I've not watched Mixish. I've watched one or two episodes, and while I am a huge fan of Mark Paul Gosselaar, you can't say his name too fast, but anybody from who was an 80s baby and was like a kid in the 90s, they grew up watching Saved by the Bell, and so you have to love Zach. Um, but this show just didn't feel like it was for me. And I think that that is okay. I think it's okay when you recognize that a show is not for your demographic and it's not appealing to you. I'm not a big action person, so there's a lot of action programs that I don't like. Now, if you combine action and fantasy and you give me a Game of Thrones, I am all in. But there's just certain shows that are not for me. I can watch episodes of The Office, but The Office is not for me. I did watch a full season of Parks and Rec, um, and that was fairly enjoyable, but it was just not enough to keep me coming back. But The Good Place, that was my bag. So everyone has different taste. Everyone falls into different little subgroups, and so certain shows just aren't for us, and it's okay to say that. Now, Kenya Barris is also known for some very popular movies. He did Girls Trip. He did the movie Little. I'm actually pretty excited because he, along with, um, I always mispronounce his name, but Guillermo del Toro, are doing a remake of the Roald Dahl book or novel, The Witches, which was made into a movie in the 80s starring Angelica Houston, which I adore that movie. And they're remaking it, but I think they're remaking it as like a stop action movie. So I don't know really how that'll be. If it's I'm hearing different things about it, but it's supposed to come out in October, so I'm really excited about that. He also was famously partnered and worked on America's Next Top Model with Tyra Banks. So this show, Black AF, starts off with the premise of um, Kenya Barris's second oldest daughter. She is an NYU film student, or attempting to be, and she is making a documentary of her family. She's talking about her father and the fact that he has become wealthy for making black things, that he's very concerned about black things and wanting to present black things um, to the world. In fact, she calls him in that very first episode a profiteer of black culture. Um, and there is something very telling in that word choice. Now, what I can see about this show is it seems to be perhaps Kenya Barris turning the lens on himself and allowing and trying to have those deeper conversations with himself to say, what is the perception that he wants to cast out into the world? What does he want people to? What does he want the world to see about him, and what does he want the world to view about black people in general? And he works really, really hard in trying to set a good example for black people, especially among white audiences. And he really struggles with the concept of the white gaze and what that means in his own life and how that affects his measure of success. So that is really what the premise of this show is. On its face, the show is very similar to Blackish. Both are loosely based on Kenya Barris's own life, with his wife and who mimics his wife in real life. I believe her name is it Bana or something like that? Y'all forgive me. I researched it, but I don't remember how they pronounce her name. But she's actually a doctor in real life, or it's his ex-wife at this point. The character of Rainbow is more closely based around her. The character in hashtag Black AF is a little less, a little bit more loosely based on her, some elements, but he has said it's a very different character than the character that he is revealing of her from Blackish. But both shows are kind of like mirror images of his life. He has a very large family. He has married a woman who is biracial, and both men in the show are very successful, and they work in predominantly white fields of work, and they have gotten a certain amount of success as deemed by the world in terms of wealth, and that has altered or skewed their perception of black life. And it's skewed their perception of what it means to be black. They have lost touch with their quote unquote black side. Now, the problem with this premise on the whole is that it is trying to tackle this idea of what it means to be black in America in this new age where black people have, in some aspects, achieved a certain amount of success in the world. And does that take them away from their black cultural identity? It strives to separate this idea of blackness and struggle by equating blackness to success. Very similar to what we saw in the 80s and the 90s with a lot of the programming that was on TV then, made by or starring black actors and actresses. So shows like The Cosby Show and A Different World and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and even things like Living Single, all try to show black people as successful contributing members of society and not equating their blackness with struggle. And so we no longer get shows like the show that was on TV once called South Central, or even shows like Thea, or shows like Good Times that really show a black family that is struggling to make ends meet. It's trying to show that blackness is not devoid of success. Okay. The problem with this is that it stands on the premise that black cultural identity is wrapped up in the idea of struggle, and therefore, as you attain more success, you lose your black identity. And so, very rarely does the show actually look at or speak to the things about black culture that have been birthed out of successful movements. Things like that we haven't seen on these shows really strongly, like Black Greek life. There was, a large conversation going on about Kenya Barris's decision to base Grownish at a PWI. And because of this, we don't get to see the quote unquote Black excellence that you perhaps would see um, as strongly at HBCUs. So there, you don't get to see a Black Greek life very strongly on those shows. You don't get to see the things that are going on at HBCUs, like internships abroad and getting a chance to see those opportunities being given to students of color. So, because of that, because he doesn't seem to be very knowledgeable about things that are culturally acceptable and are culturally relevant in the Black community, that are birthed out of a sense of success and community, he's only attaching it to a sense of struggle. The characters themselves are always struggling with, am I Black enough to be, am I Black enough? Am I Black enough to be accepted by the Black community? Am I white enough to be considered by the white community, or am I Blackish? Now, so let's talk about hashtag. So that's the problem that I see with Kenya Barris' stance on the whole, and what we get out of shows like Mixish and Blackish and Grownish. Now, when we talk about hashtag Black AF, the problem that he has is, one, we have, if you have seen Blackish, you have seen this story. We have already seen this story of the successful mother who is struggling to reconcile her identity as a career woman and a mother with a lot of children. A lot of children. Can we say it again for the people in the back? A lot of children. They are trying to populate their own little nation over there in the Barris household. So that's one element that we've seen in both shows. Of course, we get the Kenya Barris element. Kenya Barris on Black AF. Anthony Anderson plays Kenya Barris on Blackish. So we have that. You have the very fashion forward, very intelligent, knowledgeable daughter character. They've kind of separate those characters a bit, and so it feels like the character of Chloe, who is the older sibling in hashtag Black AF, is actually supposed to be closer to the character of Junior on Blackish, in my opinion. And then the daughter Drea is closer to the daughter Zoe on Blackish and Grownish. In my opinion, it seems like those characters kind of, there's some overlap there, especially with what they've done with Junior, because there are times when Junior was like a very smart, very intelligent character, and then there are times when they play up his stupidity, and they're obviously doing that for humor, kind of like what we saw happening with JJ on Good Times, right? A dumbing down of that character for comedic effect. The character of Zoe is oh my gosh, why can't I think, I'm like completely, the character of Zoe, which is who is played by Yara Shahidi, who is an extremely intelligent, very well spoken actress, and there's a lot of overlap between what I see in her and what I see in the young woman who plays Drea. She's a newer actress. I can't remember her name right now, but if you watch even the first episode, you will see that she obviously has seen Blackish, she has seen Grownish, she's seen Yara Shahidi, and she has studied from the Yara Shahidi playbook. I mean, there are nuances to the way she says things that are so similar that it's almost kind of scary. There's a middle daughter named Izzy, who is supposed to be the scary one. Like it's like this humorous thing about the fact that everyone in the household is afraid of her, and that's obviously the Diane character on Blackish, played by Marseille Martin. And then you have the younger boys. I don't remember all of their names. Like I said, it's a lot of children. It's a lot of children. It's a lot of children. I have to keep saying that because I can't even fathom. To all of y'all with more than two, respect all day. And they're kind of like the Jack character, and they're just kind of like separated. Like it's like Jack just was like an amalgamation of like both of those two younger boys. I think Pops was the name of one of them, and I don't remember the other one's name. And then there's a little baby Brooklyn, who obviously is like the youngest son that they've just recently had on Blackish. So all of those elements of Blackish show up in hashtag Black AF. The storylines are similar because it's Kenya Barris's life. So what we get here is we get a work of art, and using art in air quotes simply because it's up to you if you consider it art. It's not up to me, right? But we see all of those elements of Blackish that show up here. The only difference is that in many cases, Blackish, in some instances with plot, has can go on into more detail because it's lasted longer. And in some instances, it's a little, of course, lighthearted because it's ABC, so it can't do certain things as detailed. And the other thing is, of course, the cussing, right? Lots of cussing on hashtag Black AF. Not a lot of nudity, not a lot of violence or anything like that. Whole lot of cussing. Um, to the point where there's this clip that I kind of want to insert where Kenya Barris is talking to Tyler Perry, who at one point is mentioned in the show. And there's this dramatic pause that Kenya Barris takes about wanting to trash Tyler Perry. And you can kind of see the wheels spinning where he wants to look down on Tyler Perry, but he doesn't want to shoot himself in the foot in the media because he knows that those things that you say might come back to bite you in the butt. And he is cussing in front of his daughter, and Tyler Perry is like, "You talk to your kid like this? What is going on here? Like, you're talking to your kid like this?" And then he says, "But she said X, Y, and Z to me," and he's kind of looking at both of them like, "Is this what we do in Black households? Like, I don't even get down like this." And I loved that sequence because that's the reaction that I had. While I am a teacher, so I definitely know that kids of all races cuss and cuss a lot. By and large, until you get to a certain age and maybe your family is real comfortable, you get to a certain age and you might get a little lax. There's certain things you don't say. You don't let your parents know that you say them. They might know that you say them, but you don't say it in front of them. And that is the hard pass. And one of the hard passes for me is the way that the children are allowed to talk to the parent, because I certainly didn't grow up like that. And I'll be doggone, let one of my children talk to me in a certain kind of way and use certain kind of language about me and don't check themselves. Oh, I will check you and your behind. Trust and believe. So it's hard for me to get past that. And I feel like that's a cultural norm for us. Like, you might hear like pockets of people now like kind of changing their minds now, but people from Kenya Barris's generation, that's not how we were raised to speak to our parents. So that's one thing, that just one major difference of having a Netflix platform versus having the Blackish platform on ABC. And I know Kenya Barris has had some issues with ABC not allowing him to air certain episodes that they felt like didn't match with their brand. ABC is owned and operated by Disney, so there's certain episodes that they're not going to let you run. But I also think that's the cost that you pay, right, by having not just a show on an ABC, which is a Disney owned company, but also having something that is consumable for the masses, right? That was your whole aim. Your whole goal was to get those big checks and to present Black life to white audiences. And in fact, that is really what Blackish does, right? It goes to try and explain elements of Black culture, not for Black viewers, because we most by and large know what these things are. It's explaining it to white viewers. And the problem is that that same type of explanation is present in Black AF. And so it begs the question, who is this for? Is this for Black audiences or is this for white audiences? The other problem that I have with the show, aside from the fact that we've already seen this, aside from the fact of the language of the children and the parents to each other, and who is the audience of this show, is just simply the title even of itself, hashtag Black AF. Because here's a show which says that it's Black as you know what, but yet it struggles to find its footing in Black culture. And let's face it, I personally I can watch a Blackish because I probably see myself a little bit closer to that demographic. I guess what you would consider living in a middle class household. So the problems that they experience there are a little bit more relatable. The level of wealth that Kenya Barris has achieved certainly puts him in like the top 5%, maybe not the top 1% in America, but the top 5% in America, and certainly top 1% for Black people in America in terms of wealth. And so the problems that he's dealing with are just not relatable for most Black viewers. And this struggle with his identity, it's almost like if you didn't work that out, work that through in Blackish, why is that the only facet of yourself that you wish to present? I mean, here is a man who was, if I'm not mistaken, like raised in Inglewood, um, which he alludes to in Blackish. And he literally devotes like one or two episodes in Blackish and one moment where he has a cookout where he invites his family over in Black AF, where he actually deals with any of that side of himself. And so I think that rubs a lot of viewers the wrong way because it's like, is this the only side of Black that you experience today in this day and age? Like, you don't have any other um, sides of Blackness where you see yourself and where you experience yourself, because we've already seen this side of your Blackness. Give us something different. And I think we're all kind of getting fatigued with this idea of just like this glamorous Black lifestyle, which is great to see. We love to see, but there's no balance. And it's not for me to come down harshly on Kenya Barris, but it is to say, if you're just going to keep getting us the same iteration of the same story over and over again, viewers are going to turn off. So let's talk about the show itself really quickly. Is the show good? As objective as I could possibly be, because it's really hard to be objective because it is my opinion, right? Everyone's going to have their own opinion. The show is not bad. I had no laugh out loud moments, and I have had laugh out loud moments watching Blackish. I have had not a single laugh out loud moment watching this show because the problems that they are experiencing are so far fetched that I don't even have any man, that's true moments, or yeah, they're, it just feels like caricature upon caricature of poor Black cousins that are really ghetto, and men who have a baby that they're not taking care of, a man who is struggling with his wife wanting to find her own measure of success and not holding up to her end of it just, everything just seems like one big caricature after the other. And none of it felt like it was extremely well written or very well nuanced. The most interesting part of the show to me was when he did the conference call with like Issa Rae, Lena Waithe, Tim Story, oh gosh, what is his name? Ava DuVernay, and you guys know he's the guy who created like all the Black movies. It's going to come to me and I'm going to hate myself for it. But that scene, which takes place like around episode 6 or 7, that was probably the most entertaining. And it wasn't Kenya Barris. It was the other writers who he's speaking to that. And I don't know if they ad-libbed that. I don't know if they wrote that in. I'm sure it was a little bit of both. But that was the most entertaining part. Again, no laugh out loud moments, but it was at least a little bit more entertaining. And the funny thing is that all of those people have had a lot of criticism from the Black community about their art and how their art either represents a very narrow view of Black life or a very caricaturized view of Black life. And are they just in it to be profiteers and make money off of Black misery or Black experiences? Or do they really, really want to bring and present a nuanced view of the culture to the culture? Do they want to give Black audiences things that elevate a higher level of art? Calling the show Black AF means that, in my opinion, I'm expecting to see a show really steeped in Black culture and not having to explain itself to Black audiences, because we're getting the opportunity to just experience Black culture on the whole. I think about movies that came out in the 90s that did this very well. Movies like The Inkwell, where we got to see upper middle class black people in Martha's Vineyard, or Martha's Vineyard section, a section of Martha's Vineyard that is for Black people, and we got a chance to see that. I think about shows like House Party, even, where it's a comedy, but it's seeped in black culture. I mean, if you lived in a black community, I mean, I didn't live in like a largely black community, but when I went to go visit my cousins, guess what I did? I went to a house party. Those things and stuff that happened at the house party we might not have had DJs, but I could relate to those experiences. The problem with hashtag Black AF is it's been so much time explaining Black life to people who don't need the explanation. So it makes it very clear that this show is not for us. If those things just happened organically and they didn't have to go around and keep explaining them again and again and again, then it would be like, oh, here's where I connect with this. Here's where I see myself. Oh, I remember when this happened to me. And this doesn't really draw any of those experiences. I mean, heck, they spend the last two episodes of the show in Fiji. In Fiji. Now, raise your hand if you can afford to visit Fiji and also vacation on a private island in Fiji. Yeah, not too many black people have been to Fiji. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with him having that experience, but then you called the show Black AF and you didn't give us any Black AF moments. The cookout was your one opportunity to do that, and you spend so little time dealing with the actual cookout itself and letting us experience the cookout itself that it didn't feel like we were at a cookout at all. I was trying to see what was on the plates. I didn't get to see what people were eating. I didn't see, and show us the food, show us people playing spades, show us like getting involved in moments that happen organically, and it just didn't feel like any of that. So initially the show was supposed to be called Black Excellence. And of course, then the problem with that is Black Excellence only this one thing that he's become? And because, and I'm going to go ahead and just say, I am not here to drag Rashida Jones or even Kenya Barris for constantly using very light-skinned, racially ambiguous black people in his art. Because as he has said, that is representative of his family. Now, he has to reconcile and deal with the fact that he has chosen that as his family. And there's nothing wrong with that. His wife is, in real life, or was, a biracial black woman. She was biracial. She was black and white. Two parents. One of them was black. So she is a biracial black woman and a biracial white woman. She is both. Therefore, his children are light-skinned black people. They are 3/4 black. Okay. Now, there is some issues with the fact that when he cast those characters, sometimes he's casting biracial actors and actresses, but he's doing that to try and match the level of complexion of his own children. And black people come in all complexions. They don't all look chocolatey like me, and so that happens. So I don't have a problem with that per se. I do wish that he would give us characters that varied. And I think that he could easily do that within his shows. He could have done that with a Grownish. I really would have loved to have seen Zoe have gone off to an HBCU and have given us that HBCU experience. And the problem I have with Grownish, side note, is that I have gone to visit some HBCUs to take students there, and that core group of friends that she has, she certainly could have had that core group at an HBCU, because HBCUs are no longer just black kids. And I think that would have allowed him to give us that culture that he wants to give us. But he can't call this show Black Excellence because it's only one view of Black excellence that he's presenting. But he also shouldn't have called it Black AF, because it was asking for the kind of response that it has gotten. So, was the show decent? This show was decent. If you like watching Curb Your Enthusiasm, if you like watching Parks and Rec, if you like watching The Office, any of those shows that take like a mockumentary kind of angle to present itself, you're going to enjoy this show. If you enjoy Blackish, you're not going to hate this show. I just don't think that you're going to hate the show if you enjoy Blackish. Are you going to be entertained? No, you're not going to be. If you like Blackish, you're probably not going to be greatly entertained here, because it feels like a repeating of the same storylines we've already gotten, but with a whole lot of cussing that we didn't necessarily need in order to get the same point that we got the first time around. What he should have given us probably should have been a uh, a black AF show that gave us moments of like black culture at the upper echelons of the upper echelons. Give us some family members that are all about that Greek life. Let us see that extended family. Everything doesn't have to be just about your core family. I know you got some kin that you can write some stories about that would be interesting, that you could have added some depth and layering to this. This just wasn't it for me. And so, I'm going to give it a C. We've seen this before, and I'm hoping that with this $1 million or however many millions of dollar deal that he got with Netflix, that we get um, some nuanced and interesting work from Mr. Barris, because I'm like Issa Rae. I'm rooting for everybody black, but I'm kind of ready to be done with this storyline. All right, guys, so those are my thoughts on Black AF. Let me know down below what you think about the show. Have you given it a watch? Are you just tired? Are you excited? Did you enjoy it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Tell me all about it down below in the comments. If you like this video, please do me a favor and give it a like. I can use it. Give me and please subscribe to my channel. I will come back and give you more content. All right, so until next time, guys, be blessed and toodles.